Welcome back to Full Circle Ancestry. Today we continue the German Ancestral Heritage series with the second Perspectives episode, A Bit More Bavaria. Today we'll spend time in the Upper Palatinate or Oberpfalz region of Bavaria in Germany. This is just east of Part 2's Franconia or Franken region, bordering the Czech Republic. Our focus will be one small village where I spent my nights while splitting time between my adventures in Limbach and the Czech Republic. The village of Falkenberg was endearing, and I felt it deserved the time to pause and reflect on. A little bit like Limbach, there are multiple locations called Falkenberg in Germany today. Unlike the more than 20 Limbach locations, however, there are only 3 municipalities in Germany with that name, including ours in Oberpfalz. There is no single historical event that defines Falkenberg. Nobody particularly famous hails from here. It wasn't bombed or shelled into dust in a pivotal World War II battle. Nothing fancy. Rather, it reveals a sense of simplicity that still exists outside of the hustle of prime tourist destinations. Let's go! Falkenberg's long history is tied to agriculture as well as mining and trades. According to the village's municipal website, the 1630 tax register showed 71 houses, 2 mills and 2 inns, plus weavers, tailors, cobblers, potters, locksmiths, and so on. Mills functioned in grain processing, metal hammering, and in sawing wood. Both of the village mills, plus 2 more nearby called Hammermühle and Trochlauermühle, are also indicated on this map from 1893. Today, the largest single employer in the village is an information systems and logistics software company with headquarters there. How times have changed. The village is visually anchored by Burg Falkenberg, or Falkenberg Castle. Standing atop a granite outcropping that made it an obvious spot for a defensive structure, the fortress was originally constructed starting in the 1000s. It was expanded in the 1200s and 1400s, but then fell into ruin during the 30 Years' War in the first half of the 1600s. A restoration in the early part of the 1900s was initiated by Friedrich Werner von der Schulenburg. He was a diplomat who was involved in the unsuccessful plot to kill Hitler on 20th of July 1944 and was executed as a result. Today the castle is, of all things, a hotel, serving as my home during my visit to the area. Do you see the cat? Pause if you need a moment. There it is. With an entryway carved into the very granite, an elevator shaft built just within the rock's confines, a pleasant view into the medieval-feeling courtyard, and breakfast in the Rittersaal, or Knight's Hall, I was tickled by my surroundings. The hotel's rooms are named after the surrounding mills and hills, which can be seen from the vantage point of the high-perched structure. Falkenberg also holds one of the more limited and special privileges of beer making. Only 5 villages today hold the right to make what is called Zeugelbier. This tradition allows local citizens with the privilege to brew their beer communally. It is a bottom-fermented, unfiltered, unpasteurized lager beer made using a wood-fired mash, cooled overnight, and fermented in individual private cellars dug into the granite bedrock. Zeugelbier is served directly from the tank in the locales that are so commissioned. A special symbol marks the Zeugelstuben, or Zeugel pubs, that are sanctioned to serve Zeugelbier, generally drawn as blue and white equilateral triangles, one inverted and laid over the other. There is no religious context to this symbol, which came into use at least as early as 1430, while the similar Star of David did not come into broad common use as a symbol of Judaism until the 1800s. The Zeugel star is said to represent the 3 classical elements of fire, earth, and air, and the 3 ingredients of beer used at the time, water, malt, and hops. Yeast was not recognized for its role in fermentation until the 1800s, so it hadn't made the grade for inclusion in the Zeugl symbol, which by then had become a tradition more than a representation of the actual contributing factors in making the product. Falkenberg's communal brewhouse, while having gone through much rebuilding and renovation over the centuries, has stood in the same location for as long as the village has been granted Zeugl brewing rights, which was in the year 1467. The water still comes from the stream called the Waldnaab that flows through the village. Wald means forest, while Naab is of ancient origin and seems to mean something like the flowing one. Each brew-up yields about 30 hectoliters, or 3,000 liters, about 800 US gallons. The current instantiation of St. Pancratius Roman Catholic Church was completed in 1908 to replace a Baroque church from 1687. Falkenberg is also anchored on each side of the village by small chapels, one from 1725 and the other from 1827. This roadside cross stands on the high ground of Falkenberg with a fine view of the church. Another chapel from the 1700s stands at the local cemetery and includes a small vestibule with a Maria of Sorrows alcove from 1895. The municipal offices are in a building from the 1800s. Notice the cutaways in both the office building and the one across from it. The narrow lane through the center of the village takes an awkward bend in this section, and these two structures have had to yield a corner of their ground floors to accommodate sidewalks. This tractor didn't need any extra space. Falkenberg is dotted with traditional Bavarian guest houses that also serve as restaurants, and each serve their own Zeugl beer whenever a batch is ready to tap. Zum Goldenen Stern suited me particularly well for my visit. It was loaded with rustic charm, plus one of the regulars invited me to sit at this Stammtisch, their regular, informally assigned table, where they meet for a beer and some conversation. I had to do some mental gymnastics to decipher their local dialect on the fly, which I was only marginally successful at doing, but they were patient with me. I appreciated the hospitality and spent most of the time just listening and observing a tradition of camaraderie in a close-knit community. One evening, a few of them also played Schafkopf, a Bavarian card game of trumps and tricks using 32 cards and the 4 suits of acorns, leaves, hearts, and bells. I have no idea what happened the entire time. Evening walks around the village led to endless discoveries. Everywhere a touch of quaint charm. Clean and well kept, there is a clear sense of pride in the old, like this restored mill structure and this display of historic farming implements, and in the new, such as this fish. You can see that I enjoyed my few evenings in Falkenberg unequivocally, and I hope you enjoyed a glimpse at this small, off-the-beaten-path Bavarian village. Thanks for watching this episode of the German Ancestral Heritage series. Press the like button, press the subscribe button, and if you're continuing to enjoy the channel's content, please consider supporting. See you next time in part 3, where we'll continue our westward journey, and a bit further south, to learn about my ancestral roots in Freiburg im Breisgau, Germany, and the edges of the Black Forest. Bye for now.